Welcome back to the Flint Catholic Podcast. I know we were off for a week. I was in sunny Sedona, Arizona, and I can't wait to talk to you about it on the other side of the Flint Catholic Podcast. So yeah, you may have noticed we didn't have an episode last week of the Flint Catholic Podcast. And that's because for a good chunk of last week, I was out of the state. I was in Arizona celebrating a wedding, which is awesome.
Very nice.
It is beautiful. Sedona, Arizona to be precise. And Sedona is amongst the most beautiful places I've ever been to. It is absolutely incredible. It's absolutely breathtaking. I'd show you pictures, but just like they always say, right? The royal they always say that the pictures don't do it justice, right? And the pictures don't. It's absolutely incredible. Just being in the presence of such an incredible, geology and all the red rock and man, the chapel there was like right on the side of some of that red rock. Absolutely beautiful, breathtaking. The entire time, like I was driving in from Phoenix to Sedona. That's about a 2-hour drive.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure like my neck started hurting after a while because
wow,
I'm just like,
wow,
oh my gosh, look at that, look at that, look at that, look at that. And it was just, oh man.
That sounds like my first time I ever saw the Rocky Mountains when I was in Colorado. I'm like,
yeah,
whoa, like you just kept going up too, and you're like, wow, it's amazing, yeah.
Yes. So something I want to talk about on this episode is something that I kind of experienced there and saw there. There's a lot of New Age stuff in Sedona, which I thought was interesting. It's very New Agey, so why is that? So first of all, I want to get a definition of what we mean by New Age. I think it's important to define our terms. So what do we mean by New Age? Well, to get that definition, I went to Reddit.
Oh,
and,
boy.
The first poster on Reddit looking to define New Age says this: take everything that resonates with you, disregard everything that doesn't. Well, how do you think?
Sounds
what do you
about
think
New
of that?
Age to me.
Yeah, it sounds pretty New Age.
Sounds
right?
pretty New Age, right? Of almost like whatever feels good.
Yes.
Go with that.
Yes, it's all about the feels and the good vibrations, as we'll talk about
Thanks,
later.
Beach Boys.
Yeah, right. The good vibrations. So take everything that resonates to you, disregard everything that doesn't. I think that's a good, like, modern definition of what New Age is. Now, obviously, it goes more in depth than that. In particular, though, I saw signs about the Sedona vortexes. The Sedona vortexes, and I'm like, ooh, what's that? And yes, I do realize that the actual proper term should be vortices.
Right.
But in Arizona, they actually
plural.
don't call them vortices. They literally call them vortexes.
Oh, Sedona.
So, yeah. So we're going to go with vortexes. So according to visitsedona.com.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
What is a vortex? Sedona vortexes, and even here they say the proper grammatical form vortices is rarely used, are thought to be swirling centers of energy that are conducive to healing, meditation, and self-exploration. These are places where the earth seems especially alive with energy. Many people feel inspired, recharged, or uplifted after visiting a vortex. I felt like the NPR voice was required there.
Right.
So yes, that is what a vortex is: a swirling center of energy, conducive to healing, meditation, and self-exploration. Now, I think a little bit later on in the same website, they kind of give up the game a little bit. So it says Sedona has developed a worldwide reputation as a place of enlightenment. This is home to a large community that promotes a variety of alternative healing and spiritual practices. So New Age.
Very much.
There are wellness shops and boutiques scattered throughout the town, which is true. I saw that. It is virtually guaranteed that you will leave feeling better than when you arrived. Your heart will be lighter, your smile will be wider, and you will feel more energized. Here's where they give up the game. Because here's the wonderful secret. Vortexes are located at some of the most devastatingly scenic spots found among the towering red rock formations. Anytime you can get outside to walk in the sunshine, breathing fresh, clean air amid dazzling panorama is a day well spent. So I think...
Interesting.
I think that kind of gives up the game, right?
It does.
Like, these are devastatingly scenic spots, and so there must be swirling energies underneath, right, that make that happen. Or maybe it's because you're just in an incredibly beautiful place.
Right. So for some insight, Father Tony came home and he was like, yep, I need to buy that camper I've been wanting and I need to go back out west. And that's the same spirit. I mean, that's what I felt too. I understand what he means. That's what I felt too the first time I went to Colorado. And as you're describing that with the vortexes, not vortices,
yes,
it sounds very much so like people go there and they're very refreshed by the fact that they're within God's beautiful nature, right?
Yes.
You're so used to this in front of your face all day, or on your computer screen all day, or city life, or at least suburbia life, where you're like, oh, this is all the same I see every day. So when you go to some place where there's red rocks aplenty and there's just beautiful things all around and you're just taken up by nature and God's beauty of what he made, of course you're going to feel great, which I'm not saying it's not bad to do. Those are amazing places to go. But I feel like there's a pretty easy explanation for that. It just so happens that also alternative medicine or I don't know, other new age spiritual practices pop up in those areas because that's an area where people go to seek that serenity and that good thing. So it's like let's benefit from that, which I mean, I guess the chapel was also built right there, right? But that's in a little bit of a different way. That's a beautiful area. Let's glorify God's beauty in having this chapel right here. So that doesn't surprise me. It is kind of funny how they give away, right?
Yeah.
The vortexes are, they happen to be located in the most beautiful places in Arizona. Oh, who knew?
Shocking.
Right.
What a coincidence.
Right.
What a coincidence. According to Sedona.net, so I did some research on this, right?
You're obsessed with Sedona now.
A little bit. What does a vortex feel like? So to give a little bit more context here, they actually have like actual spots along Sedona that they consider like these centers of vortex centers, right?
Okay.
So there's like, and they all happen to be on trails, right? Of course.
Wonder why.
And also, I actually did not visit any of these actual locations. I was in Sedona, which is considered to be a giant vortex, but I didn't visit any of the specific areas.
Did you know of these beforehand or no?
No. So I only found out as I was there, and like everyone's talking about these vortexes. And according to Sedona.net, what does a vortex feel like? So I'm curious, right? You may feel a range of sensations, from a slight tingling on exposed skin to a vibration emanating from the ground when you encounter a vortex. Most often, a vortex is felt by palpable sensation across the nape of the neck and the shoulder blades. If you don't feel it, one way to vibe with the vortex energy is to sit at a vortex location, look at the view, feel your place in the expansive beauty, be still, and most importantly, allow yourself to feel grateful.
Can I highlight one of those?
Yep.
Can I see that for a second, actually? Feel your place in the expansive beauty. That is exactly what I felt like when we were in Rocky Mountain National Park, and all of a sudden, so we're hiking up to these lakes where we were fishing, which is such a beautiful place to fish, by the way. But all of a sudden, you look up and you're surrounded almost probably 1,000 feet in the air by these rock formations. And that's what I did, right? You're just standing there and you're like, wow, I am so small. And yet look at this beauty all around me. And it's, to me, in those situations, I love being out in nature, and so do many saints and everything, right?
Yep.
To me, it's one of the places where you can be like, look at what beauty God has made.
Yes.
Look at what more he's made me for. It's like, and so I don't know whether people know it or not, whether they're engaging in new age things or not, or engaging in, the beautiful plan and the beautiful designs of God. I think naturally we have a attachment to that, of like, wow, look at all this,
Yes.
So
And
I think it's funny that they highlight that, because that's exactly what I could say. And it's like, wow, look at all this beauty around us. I can feel this. This is, the type of nature that I was made out of, that God created me out of.
yeah, and really a Christian way to look at that is like God made that for us. I was kind of looking at, so I was watching some YouTube videos while I was there, like, how did all of this form? Like, how do we get to the place to where these rocks are the way that they are, and just the landscape and everything's like that? And it takes billions of years, like not millions. It takes billions of years to get to where it's at. And we just happen to be at the exact right moment of time to experience this part of it, where you've got, like, at one point, all of that area would have been underneath a tropical ocean.
Yep.
And so the ocean's like covering all of that, and so you get, a layer of sediment there, and then the oceans recede, and then they come back, and then they recede, and like it was part of Pangea at one point, and then it breaks up. Like, it's billions of years of things happening, and God, like, putting all of these pieces into place to be like, hey, look what I can do.
Right.
And look how amazing that is. So when you're in the presence of that incredible beauty, you're like as a Christian, you're like, wow, Lord, this is incredible, and you did all of that just for us to experience that.
Right. Definitely. It looks like you have more to
do.
talk on. But quickly, I want to highlight too, like, this just comes to my mind, like, because I love music. I know you love music too. Think of, like, the Red Rocks Amphitheater in Colorado. Beautiful place where, like, they have, partially it was already carved out, right? But partially they carved it out to have a place where, like, this beauty of nature and this beauty of the arts mix.
Yes.
And I think it's very funny. Like, we so often, like, that's a pinnacle place if you really want to go see a concert somewhere.
Yes.
And it's very much because you're so looking to see this beauty that God has created. And then you also, like, we can be, overcome with emotions, with different art things, with musical, theatrical things, because we're made to take in those things. These are the things that God has given us in life to enjoy and to see the beauty in, you know. And so just
you could even say, like, for that venue in particular, it's a blending of different kinds of beauty all into one, where you're surrounded by beauty in your environment and in the venue, and then you're also surrounded by beauty in the art that's, assuming that the art that's being portrayed is beautiful.
Hopefully.
Yeah, right? And so, like, there's multiple vortices of beauty all coming at you together in one spot, right? And that's why that venue is as famous as it is.
I wonder who created the vortices.
Interesting. So I kind of want to have a more of a larger discussion. I think it's important to have a larger discussion on just New Age itself.
Right.
I think it's something that we're seeing really crop up more and more in our culture today. And so to have this conversation about what is New Age and what is the Christian response to New Age. And I think, our opening example with Sedona, I think is a really, really good example of that, where you see all these New Agey practices popping up, trying to explain all of these things that we're experiencing. And Christians are like, hey, we've got the answer. We've had the answer for a long time, and we know what's actually going on. But without a doubt, I think, and I see it at the high school, I see it just in our culture in general, there's a rising sense of New Age, and there's a rising popularity. So Word on Fire, Robert Mixa wrote an article kind of talking about all of this. He says, New Age wonders, Catholic supernaturalism, and strange mystery. And he's kind of seeing the same thing that I'm seeing, is that he sees it in his culture around him, and he actually goes to the bookstores, and he can start to see that in the bookstores as well, where he's starting to see more books popping up on this. And he says this, he says, at first I was surprised by the popularity of the New Age sensibility amid my students and on the shelves of used bookstores. All of these efforts towards universal literacy, and people choose that stuff? Does anyone really take it seriously? Which is, I want to stop there and say, like, that can be a very obvious first reaction to this.
Right.
Like, wait, you're like, people are actually interested in New Age stuff? Isn't that like kook stuff? Isn't that like the copper bracelet that golf people were trying to sell you for years? The
little braided bracelet that all the baseball players used to wear in the 2000s?
Like, isn't that the same thing? And not quite. There's more to it nowadays. So moreover, he continues, I unreflectively subscribe to Max Weber's disenchantment theory of modernity, assuming that in our positivic age, no one would believe in souls, angels, ghosts, demons, fairies, even goblins, transposing all remnants of enchantment to the market. But perhaps the West has not become less religious, just de-Christianized, such that salvation in Christ and growing in his likeness are not of central concern. So he's talking about here about a new pagan age, a postmodern New Age is what he says. I think he is right on the nose here with this reflection. I
agree.
It's not that we're becoming less religious. It's that it's not Christian. It's a different kind of religion.
We're trying to find answers in other religions.
Yes. I think that's absolutely. He also says, right, assuming that our age is more materialistic, which it is, but do we believe in souls, angels, ghosts, demons, fairies, and goblins? I would say more people are answering yes to that.
Yeah.
Right? You're seeing, like, think of all the horror movies that are starting to come out now. There's a huge rise in horror. And it's because people are starting to dive into this stuff more.
I mean, even non-horror, look at one of the biggest TV shows in the last couple of years is Stranger Things.
Yes.
About an alternate almost reality, which combines into ours with all of these, like, monstrosities, right, that affect our lives. Well, that's not too far off from the curiosity and potential condition of the own world.
Yes. Mixup continues, says, I understand why people might not find Christianity compelling. The church often does a poor job presenting and showcasing the full supernatural weight of her practices and teachings.
Correct.
In fact, the Christianity we present is often quite dull.
Correct.
Oof, right here, but he's spot on, isn't he? He's so spot on. At this point, this is where I want to plug one of my new addictions, my new favorite podcast.
Ah, here we go.
You've
been waiting for this one.
You knew this was coming. It's called Haunted Cosmos. Haunted Cosmos. It is incredible. I think the two guys who do the podcast, they are Reformed Christians, so they're not Catholic. They're Reformed. But I think for most of it, there's been a few sections where they're actually talking about Catholicism directly, and I'm like, okay, you're wrong there. But other than that, those few moments, they are spot on, and they're asking the questions like, hey, is Bigfoot actually real? What if Bigfoot is actually real? What if Bigfoot's actually a demon?
Oh.
Ooh. They do an entire series.
This is why they have a podcast.
Yeah, they do an entire series on Skinwalker Ranch in Utah.
Oh, my goodness.
It is so good. And so, like, a bunch of UFO stuff is happening there, and they're like, yeah, those are probably all demons. And this
scary.
Yeah, right. I just listened to an episode on fairies in Fairyland, which is very different than Disney Fairyland. Very different than Disney Fairyland. That's pretty whoa. And really, they're coming at it with, we've been in an age of scientism, where the only things that we think are true are what we can prove by science. But if we look at all the evidence in history, here's one: mermaids.
Ooh.
Mermaids. Are mermaids real? Did you know that Christopher Columbus in his journals, just like nonchalantly one day writes, today me and the boys, we saw a mermaid. And just kind of describes it a little bit and treats it as if, well, yeah, we're in the open seas. Of course we would see mermaids.
Right.
And one thing that Haunted Cosmos really talks about is, like, actually it's really scientific pride to say, well, it was probably just like a seal or something. Or like when they all try and say, like, well, this is actually, they're probably really stupid and this is probably what they actually experienced and saw. And it's like, no, that is a lot of pride to say that, like a scientific pride. Like, what if they actually did see these things? What if these things actually did, was a part of it? Like, we know, like, witchcraft is a real thing.
Yeah.
And the occult is a real thing, and things we should all stay far away from, because once you open doors, you're opening doors you really don't want to open. Those are bad doors to open, and you will regret it a lot. So don't open those doors, because that stuff is actually real. Because we do live in a spiritual battle. We do live in a plane of existence where there is a bunch of supernatural beings that want our destruction.
Yep.
Our utter destruction. And so they will present themselves however they need to present themselves to us in order to drag us down and to destroy us.
Yep. And we often do not know how to navigate that realm whatsoever.
Correct. And this is why I think it's important to talk about New Age, because I think New Age can dip into a lot of this. And so to help us with that, I've got a Vatican document here.
Yes.
The church actually wrote on New Age.
When did they write this?
2002.
Oh.
Can you believe that? 2002.
So that's like...
They wrote on this. None of you were alive in 2002, were you? Oh, wow. Wow. So this is all before all of you were born. And it's called Jesus Christ, the Bearer of the Water of Life, a Christian reflection on the New Age. And it is a hefty document.
So this comes during John Paul II's papacy.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So this is the Pontifical Council for Culture, Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue. They both wrote this, which I think is really interesting as well, that those are the two dicasteries, I think they would call them, that wrote this. So just a few pieces here. So that first they say, okay, why do people dive into New Age? And I think that Mixa from Word on Fire kind of hits this a little bit as well. And he says the New Age religiosity addresses the spiritual hunger of contemporary men and women. The spiritual hunger. So it's attractive mainly because so much of what it offers meets hungers often left unsatisfied by the established institutions. That is, I think we should hear that as Christians and go, dang, we failed.
In a way, yeah.
We failed because we know that Jesus Christ gives us everything, right? He fulfills all of our desires, and he answers all the questions that we need answered, and yet the world looks at the church and says, nah, not what I'm looking for. Like, oh, that is a failure for us.
It
now,
is.
Here's the thing. New Age is not actually new.
No.
It's been around for a very long time. It's really has its origins in Gnosticism. So from the very beginning of the church, we see from the very beginning of the church, Gnosticism was the first heresy, the first subgroup that the church had to defend against, which really had a dualistic idea of human nature. Good, like the physical world is bad and the spiritual world is good. And so there's that dualism there. And so it kind of, this New Age comes from and borrows a lot from Gnosticism. And so we see that really this is the challenge for the church, right? That and the document continues, people feel the Christian religion no longer offers them, or perhaps never gave them, something they really need. And so what is it that they're offering them? What is it that they give them? Now, New Age itself, the document tries to describe what New Age is, and it's hard to pin it down because it's not like a denomination. It's not an actual organized group of people. It's kind of this vague, loose
term.
Participation, right? It's not a single uniform movement. And so, and a part of it that makes it really difficult to kind of nail down too is that it's really syncretistic in that like you'll see a lot of people try to combine Christianity and New Age, and that just doesn't work, right? Either they really pervert what Christianity actually is and morphs it into something that it really cannot be, because those two are incompatible. Christianity and New Age are incompatible, and so. But you see a lot of syncretism in New Age where they're trying to combine a lot of these things, and because as we said, right, if it vibes with you, it's good. If it doesn't vibe with you, it's not good.
Throw it out the window, yeah.
Right. So okay, yeah, I'll take this from Christianity, and I'll take this from Islam, and I'll take this from Buddhism, and kind of throw it all together in this smorgasbord of spirituality and call it good.
But there's no discipline in that.
Correct. Organized religion is really the kind of the one thing you're not allowed to have in New Age. It's not supposed to be organized. And
right. Well, it's supposed to be an answer of like, I don't want this, so here's this an alternative, I should say.
Correct. Oh, an alternative is a really good word to describe New Age, because that's really, I think in the end, that's kind of the crux of what New Age is. Hey, here's what the established institutions are offering you, and those all fail. So here's the alternative.
Well, choose what you want.
Choose what you want. Yes. Here's what I think actually is happening. I think that science, so that we've been through an age where scientism is big, right? Where the only things we can know are things that can be scientifically proven.
We can see right here with our face.
Yes. And we know as Christians that that's not enough.
Correct. We
know that as Christians, scientism can only take you so far, and then it fails from there. Like we can through science say, it's very likely that the universe started with the Big Bang.
Correct.
Right?
But we weren't there.
Who sparked the Big Bang?
Right.
There's no scientific explanation as to how the Big Bang sparked.
Correct.
And so now you're left with, well, how can I believe in the Big Bang if I can't actually say what started the Big Bang? There must be something else. Now, as Christians, we know God.
Right.
God said, let there be light. Boom. Big Bang happens.
That would very much make sense.
Right. It makes sense. Right. When you have a transcendent God, yeah, this all fits and it makes sense.
Right.
But without a transcendent God and without a personal God, those are important pieces too of New Age, right? That
right.
There is no personal, there is no transcendent God. We become the gods. And I think this document says this phrase, there's a spiritual narcissism in New Age.
Yeah.
Where like I become the center of all things and my truth becomes the center of my universe. And boy, that sounds like spiritual narcissism, right?
It is, but I don't think it's also like just on us to blame either, right? That's what's marketed to us is
Correct.
Like if it makes you, what is it, the Colby Calais song? If it makes you happy, can it be that bad? Well, sometimes it can.
Yes.
And sometimes it's at a complete disregard to morality or good or the good of others.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
Sometimes it can.
Now, here's a piece of New Age that I find fascinating. The document says, one of the most common elements in New Age spirituality is a fascination with extraordinary manifestations, and in particular with paranormal entities. Which is true, right? We see, so like a lot of times New Age, there's occultism that is a big part of it. So Ouija boards and tarot cards and all of these things that mediums, psychics, all of this stuff, which we are forbidden from using as Christians. All of us are forbidden from using those things not because we think they're powerless, but because we actually think that there is power there and negative, evil power there that is associated with all of this.
And like I said, we don't know how to navigate them.
Correct. And so I think what we see here, this is the reason we see all of this fascination with paranormal and extraordinary and supernatural is because the natural is not enough to explain everything. It's again, that's that break from scientism where, okay, scientism we recognize does not tell the whole story. And so now, maybe ghosts are real. Maybe Bigfoot and Loch Ness monsters and skinwalkers, they are real. And
could be.
But instead of saying, yeah, they are and they're probably demons, they say, yeah, they are maybe real and maybe we should follow them. Maybe we should go after that.
There is a point of curiosity there, which I do understand.
Correct.
But it's dangerous. Correct.
Well, and part of it is there's in New Age spirituality, there's no good and no evil. And really the only thing that's not tolerated is Christianity.
Yep.
Which I think, what's that?
That should spark a flag.
Well, yes, I was just about to say that, yes, that should spark a flag because, the only thing that's not tolerated is Christianity. And what being would say that the only thing that's not tolerated is Christianity? Oh, yeah, Satan.
Yep.
Like the truth is the only thing that's not tolerated in this, the capital T truth. So, yeah. I want to keep going on because, let's see, there's a section here where they kind of address some kind of bullet points that I want to go to as well. All right, I already talked about that. All right, number one. This is where we see the New Age and Christianity in contrast. So they've pulled out these bullet points. One, is God a being in whom we have a relationship or something to be used or a force to be harnessed?
Ooh.
Right? So that's a big difference between New Age and Christianity, where New Age, we see God is a force to be harnessed and like, may the force be with you, right?
Thanks, Star Wars.
Thanks, Star Wars. Well, Star Wars has a little bit of New Agey to it, right?
It does.
Basically pulled a lot from Buddhism and Near East or Far East religions. So is he this force to be harnessed, or is he an actual personal being that we can have a relationship with? There's a big difference there. Number two, is there just one Jesus Christ, or are there thousands of Christs? Is Jesus the way, the truth, and the life? Or is he just kind of like,
one of the ways? One
of the ways. And I think we hear this a lot. We even hear this a lot in the church and amongst people in the church. Christianity is just one way to God. And the answer is no.
I mean,
Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through him.
well, that's the thing too, is this is what Jesus said.
Yes. Yeah,
It's not
Jesus
just
himself
that
said
he was a moral teacher. I'm caught up on C.S. Lewis right now because of
Liar,
shout out to
lunatic.
Hallow. But yeah, Jesus can't just be a good moral teacher in your life because he didn't claim to be that.
Yep.
He is either, like C.S. Lewis said, liar, lunatic, or Lord. He was either crazy in saying this, he was lying in saying this, or he is correct in saying this,
Yes.
and this is the way to the Father.
Yep. So, yeah, all religions are not just different ways to God. A lot of them are filled with lies. Number 3, the human being. There is one universal being. Is there one universal being, or are there many individuals? So do we kind of
I see.
collect our consciences together and vibe together?
In the vortexes.
In the vortexes. Or are we actually individuals with individual souls?
Use the Force, Luke.
Yes, use the Force. Number 4, do we save ourselves, or is salvation a free gift from God?
That's a huge one today, even in Christianity.
Right? I think if we were to kind of look in the bookshelf in the used bookstore of New Age spirituality, you would hear self-fulfillment, self-realization, self-redemption. Those are all big pieces of that, right? Yep. Which is why we no longer have a God that saves us and is personal and we can have a relationship with him. We become that God. We become the center of all things. And so it's really Pelagian in nature that we save ourselves in that. Number 5, do we invent truth or do we embrace it? Do we invent truth or do we embrace it? I want to quote from this document because I think this line is really good too. New Age truth is about good vibrations, cosmic correspondences, harmony and ecstasy, in general, pleasant experience. It is a matter of finding one's own truth in accordance with the feel-good factor. Evaluating religion and ethical questions is obviously relative to one's own feelings and experiences. And Jesus says, nope, I'm the truth.
Right.
Follow me. And there we could say, yeah, there's an is there an objective truth or not?
Right. The line that made me cringe is following one's own truth.
Yes.
Is one's own truth. The question is one's own truth the same for everyone?
Correct.
Usually not. Okay, how is that truth?
Yes, correct.
Anyway.
That is lowercase t truth instead of capital T truth. Number 6, prayer and meditation. Are we talking to ourselves or to God?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of like this meditation, especially if you go to these vortexes in Sedona, right? They say like meditate. And what do they mean by meditate? It's not, silence your heart to pray to God, but it's just silence for the sake of
Find
silence.
your inner self.
Empty yourself of all your bad vibes and let the good vibes come in instead of contemplating the God and the creator of the universe.
And at these vortexes, all that he has made for you and the beauty he has made just for you.
Correct. So meditation prayer is in New Agey is mostly about emptying out the bad vibes and the bad feelings and the bad negative stuff and filling yourself with the good. Well, what is the good? It's God. Number 7, are we tempted to deny sin or do we accept that there is such a thing? Obviously, in New Age, there's no such thing as sin because my truth is my truth and your truth is yours. And if I decide that that's not a sin, it's not a sin.
Right.
Correct. So Diddy and Epstein would agree with that. Oh, did I just drop that? All right,
I'm surprised you said that right there.
Well, sometimes the truth got to be told, right?
It's true.
Because if this is truth, then they were correct and they're not objectively wrong in what they did. Number 8, are we encouraged to reject or accept suffering and death? So kind of along the same lines, right? Instead of sin, is suffering a failure to harness one's own resources and energy and good vibes, or is actually suffering and death something that's a part of a broken world and that Jesus wants to bring to fulfillment at one point? Number 9, is social commitment something shirked or positively sought after? Ooh, right. New Age is unashamedly self-promotion. The document says it right there. Right. Unashamedly self-promotion. If we become the gods, nobody else matters. Doesn't matter.
Why should I have to care about others?
Correct. Number 10, is our future in the stars or do we help construct it? Ooh, this is what it says. In the New Age, which is dawning, will be peopled by perfect androgynous beings who are totally in command of the cosmic laws of nature. In this scenario, Christianity has to be eliminated and give way to global religion and a new world order. Ooh.
It's true. If you were to follow New Ageism.
That is the logical end to what New Age offers. It must go to that point.
Everything must be morphed eventually into...
Correct. It cannot but end there, which is why the document ends there. So,
but then we got through it.
We did get through it, and the bell's about to ring in just a few minutes. So I think this is where we have to end. So there's no second segment today, no announcements. Nope. New Age, bad. Don't do it. Don't do any of that stuff. Follow Jesus Christ, the source and summit of everything. Anything else?
Amen.
Amen. Next week, we're going to talk about the new encyclical that Pope Francis just wrote about the Sacred Heart of Jesus. We'll dive into that. I need about a week to read it and digest it, so I just printed it off.
30,000 words.
Yeah, it's 51 pages as I printed it off today, and I'll be reading that this week. And this weekend, we got an extra day off school tomorrow, so I'll be reading that document as I get my haircut, and we will see you all next week on the Flint Catholic Podcast.